Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl dreams suffered a heartbreaking blow on Monday evening when Brandon Brooks announced that he had torn his Achilles only 1 year after recovering from that exact same injury. Losing any starter on any NFL team is bad news, but when it is someone as established as a 30-year-old three-time Pro Bowler, it's going to leave a significant hole. Brandon Brooks is the highest paid guard in the NFL. He is arguably the best guard in the NFL and has allowed 1 sack in 4 years with the team. The guy is an incredible talent and replacing him won't exactly be easy. But what options do the Eagles have at such a strange point in the offseason where, although we're at a time where OTAs should be concluding and the race to training camp begins, all teams are at such a monumental setback where they don't have time to develop younger talent. They may not have time to implement rookies as much as they normally would, and that puts some extra pressure on the decision to make this move the right one. So in this video, we will be looking at 10 potential candidates to replace Brandon Brooks and exactly what they will and won't bring to the table. Before we get into it though, guys, as always, a massive thank you for taking time out of your busy days to watch our content. If you do enjoy it, it would be amazing if you could hit that like button and stick around by subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to get your daily dosage of Philadelphia sports coverage from myself and all of our writers over at phillysportsnetwork.com. Just because sports are postponed, your passion certainly isn't, and we want to make sure fire just keeps on burning. Let's start with the names in-house, and the obvious candidate, the heir to the throne as of right now, so to speak, is former 6th round pick out of TCU, Matt Pryor, a man I'm in particular very high on. I thought he performed extremely well against the Seattle Seahawks when he was thrown into the deep end. His first ever NFL start was a playoff game against the Seahawks. There aren't many matchups that could be more intimidating. In that game, he played 69 snaps, allowing 3 pressures and 1 sack, ranking the 18th out of 25th guard that weekend. And in comparison, that's not that bad. We're forgetting that, again, this would have been his 2nd year in the league as a 6th round pick, where his only experience that year came in the week before when Brandon Brooks dislocated his shoulder. So to perform that adequately is relatively impressive. And let's not forget the work that Jeff Stoutland has done to names like Isaac Seumalo, who took 3 years to win that starting left guard role. Couldn't beat out Chance Warmack the time before. Now, obviously, the lack of OTAs is going to hurt Pryor here. This would have been the perfect window for Stoutland to really sink his teeth into the game of a very talented, very versatile 6'7", 332-pound lineman who has played in every single spot along that TCU offensive line. For me, Matt Pryor should be the logical heir to the throne. He should at least have some competition. I think the Eagles at least bring someone in, but I can see it being very much a Chance Warmack level signing where he can run par for par, stride for stride with Pryor, give him that competition, that iron sharpens iron boost, and let the best man win. You don't want to make a substantial investment because Brandon Brooks did just sign a massive contract extension in the heart of last offseason. So I feel like Matt Pryor, no matter what happens, will be in the running here, but he will need a big offseason. And let's be honest, the lack of experience, the youth on his side, it's going to work against him if the Eagles do bring in a far more experienced name. While debating in-house options, we do have to mention guys like Stuart Opeta, who have experience on the team, but in that conversation, I feel as though Matt Pryor is still going to have the advantage. There are 2 more names. Jack Driscoll was drafted as a tackle out of Auburn with the intent to slide inside and potentially learn to fill the shoes of Jason Kelce. So to picking up another arrow to his quiver wouldn't exactly be the worst news in the world for someone that is just stepping into the league, but it could be a very tall order. They don't want to overload him too quickly, especially with Doug Peterson echoing the sentiments of simplicity for his 1st round pick today. It makes sense to extend that throughout the entire draft class. Keep Driscoll at one position for now and let the guards battle it out over that spot. However, if we're talking free agents, then the first name on everyone's lips is undoubtedly going to be Jason Peters, and it's for good reason. He's a 9-time Pro Bowler, has spent the majority of his career with the Philadelphia Eagles, is undoubtedly a Hall of Famer, and he's been holding out. It's clear that the Eagles apparently want to reunite with Peters, and Peters wants to reunite in Philadelphia. The problem is, he's been working at left tackle nearly the whole of his career. If he slides inside to guard and on the right, are we really going to overlook the problems that Andre Dillard had when moving to right tackle against the Seahawks? And I'm not saying they'll be replicated. I know Jason Peters has been in the league far longer and we're comparing apples and oranges, but it's not an easy move. It's not something that is ideal for Jason Peters, especially when he has been offered starter level money to be a starting left tackle. If the Eagles are going to lure him in to be a starting right guard, it's going to probably take some extra leeway because it is some extra hassle for a man that has already given so much to the city of brotherly love. The perk of bringing Peters back would obviously be that it's a way to get him in the building without directly impacting the confidence or the standing of Andre Dillard, who has only just taken on that baton to the starting left tackle role. So in one aspect, you're going to get a mentoring Jason Peters, someone that can line up with the guards and provide that value and give you an insurance policy of someone that already knows the scheme. The flip side of it is that it's a tall ask for someone that has struggled with durability over the last few years. And are you really going to expect miracles from a franchise left tackle to move into right guard overnight? It doesn't happen like that, and it would be a risk in many senses. While we're on the topic of free agents, Larry Warford is somehow still available. The Saints cut the 3-time Pro Bowler who made that event in each of his 3 years with the Saints and only missed 4 games, so you immediately get durability. He actually earned the highest Pro Football Focus grade of his career last season with 75.8 and was named a top 25 guard in each season with the Saints. Since being drafted in 2013, he's PFF's 30 best guard out of 82 qualifiers, and he only allowed 32 pressures on 601 pass blocking snaps. So he's an absolute mauler in the pass game, as is Brandon Brooks. Now, the problem is that the 28-year-old was obviously cut for a reason. Now, one of those was due to the cap hit, the other was due to apparent conditioning issues, according to The Athletic, and the Saints going incredibly frustrated with a decline in prowess in the run game and a lack of conditioning, which doesn't exactly bode well for an Eagles offense that requires so much athleticism out of their linemen. What really doesn't help is that Warford is clearly the cream of the crop, so there's going to be a lot of competition. The Bengals, for instance, are still a team that could desperately use someone of his caliber. The Eagles are in a win now mode. They need someone serviceable, but if you're going to have to pay through the roof just to get a player with those concerns that may be seeking a better deal, your best hope is to sign him to a prove-it contract, but he may want a seat where he can get a long-term stability option, where if he can earn a starting role, he's got the ability to then go on and secure that for a long time. He won't get that in Philadelphia with Brandon Brooks still in the picture. Outside of that though, there are a couple of more intriguing names. One of them is Ronald Leary, who has a couple of connections to current Eagles coaches. He had a 12-game season with Denver, where Rich Scangarello was of course the offensive coordinator last year, but in his 8-year career, he's only played 16 games once, and he's had 29 total games in 3 years with the Broncos, so injuries have clearly hurt him, as they're also hurting this Eagles offensive front. In 5 years with Dallas before that, he played 48 games out of 80, so if you really do want an insurance policy here, the familiarity with Scangarello is great, but are you really going to get reliability? And I think that for me is a far more pressing issue than someone that it just knows your offensive coordinator. So while Ronald Leary is intriguing, that should be more of a last resort option as opposed to a primary focus as Warford would be. Another lineman with a connection to Rich Scangarello is Mike Person. Now, Scangarello was the quarterback coach for the Niners in 2018, which was Person's first year with the Niners. He played 95% of offensive snaps that year and 88% the year after, in which Scangarello left. In 3 of his last 4 years, he's had a pass blocking grade of 70+, which is about as consistent as one could possibly ask for, and he was also once considered one of the best centers in the NFL, and that kind of versatility would be an absolutely welcome addition to this Eagles offense, knowing of course that Jason Kelce may not have a primed backup behind him just yet while they wait for Jack Driscoll to grow into those shoes. So Mike Person for me could be the perfect bang for your buck option at this point. Josh Klein was supposed to be the lineman that was dealt to the Eagles in a trade for Eric Rowe, and that went down brilliantly, and unfortunately he never made it to Philadelphia. But since then, no, he's gone on to have a very successful career. He had a 97.4 pass blocking grade in 2017, and although it went down a little bit in 2018, where he's then been a bit of a journeyman, he's played with the Titans and the Vikings, I think he's serviceable enough to be a fringe starter that would at least give Matt Pryor that run of competition. Think of it like the Cody Kessler to a Nate Sudfeld. That's the sort of player I could see Josh Klein being here. And then there's Kyle Long, obviously the brother of Chris, who everyone's just making the assumption that Chris can magically pull up a super duper phone and convince his brother to sign for the Eagles. Long was an incredible player during his time with the Chicago Bears, but his season ended on IR and his career ended shortly after, where he said he was fired and didn't retire. But coaxing someone out of retirement isn't exactly ideal when there are other affordable options on the market. Yes, Kyle Long would be amazing, but we don't know A, the status of his health, B, the status of his conditioning and fitness, and C, if he even wants to, if his heart's still in it at this point. So for me, that's a bit of a wild card, but there are clearly some very, very intriguing options here. If it was me making the decision, I think Mike Person would be the perfect person, if you pardon the pun, to bring in, because he's going to compete head on with Matt Pryor. It's that Chance Warmack, that Sayamalo level partnership, right? It's a prove it contract for Person. I love that move. I understand the desire for Warford, but I don't feel like his declining efforts, his kind of lackadaisical approach is going to sit too well with that locker room, and it's really the last thing a locker room like that needs. So what do you think, guys? Let me know down in the comments section below who you would sign to replace Brandon Brooks. From myself, Liam Jenkins, we'll see you next time.